It was founded somewhere in 2006. We were very small team actually. We were just 15, 20 members team when we made this transition. It was primarily the market, right? We saw that a lot of institutions like Google, Apple, they were launching their collaboration tools already. And it's very, very hard for a small startup like Box to compete in that space. The other thing that we saw was there was a huge opportunity in the B2B space where the only kind of competitor that we heard of was SharePoint. And that's one thing that made us think through this. Obviously, it's not like we did that transition or decision in one day. You'll always find any change management very difficult because there's internal resistance, right? You've been doing things in certain ways and all of a sudden you have a new opportunity. The good thing is that we were smaller team. So essentially, it was easier for us to ensure that everyone is onboarded, right? But primarily, the reason of the pivot was essentially only two things, which is what is the competition like in the consumer space and what is the opportunity in B2B space. For us is that we change our entire business model for sure and also hire the right people because of course none of us had the experience. And frankly, at that stage, typically none of us had any experience for that matter. Like even if you talk about Aaron Levy, he was a college dropout and he started a company and he was just 2 years into it. So I think one of the things that we did was we hired a lot of marketing for actually not a lot but a very good marketing leader who worked with us on rebranding ourselves, focusing on pricing, focusing on positioning, right? On the product front, we did some changes, which is focusing a little bit more on open platform, integrating with other platforms, building workflows. But overall, and it's not like we had done a lot on the product by then. It was just 2 years into the building of Box. So we had that advantage that we could, on the product front, we could pivot very easily. Capri started with this thought that we have loyalty cards and mobile. How can we integrate it together? How can we build a product around that? It was a very simple, sort of thought. ThoughtSpot. When ThoughtSpot started, it started with one premise, which is most of the competition at that moment were focusing on analysts. Like if I enable an analyst, we have achieved what business users wanted. But ThoughtSpot saw an opportunity. Ajit saw an opportunity that there's a whole new untapped market where business, like there is a long delay like in decision making. If I'm dependent as a business user on analyst to continuously churn reports for every next question I have, literally I'm delaying the decision. So that was the opportunity. So that was the idea, right? And then they went deeper into the problem, right? So it's very important for any new product also to have 3-4 reference customers, right? And while you're figuring out if there is a good problem to solve, a scalable problem, large enough problem to solve, right? And then you get into the mode of scaling the product, figuring out. So you build a lot of jugards in the first phase, which is, let's manually input the data. Let's you do that in a new product phase. And once you have figured out that this space is big enough to focus on, then you start investing into how can you scale the product, how you do invest in. So it's important that you have initial set of people. You don't have a scale problem, so it's not like you need a lot of people managers. You just need hustlers in the beginning. And it has been common in both the startups. Ajit also started with his friends, and Anish also started with his friends. So that's that. So people wise, you don't look for skills. I mean, you literally need people who can do anything and everything under the roof for you, right? So I think once Puneet Soni said that as a product manager, even if it requires you to sweep the floor, you do that. It's just that you should not spend 100% of your time sweeping the floor. So in a startup, that's true. Core principles, core skill sets still remain the same, right? Like for a product manager, he or she needs to get things done. They need to be very, very good collaborator, like without like it's always said that you don't have the team that reports into you, but you still have to get things done. So that's very common. You have to understand the core of the problem. That's common across B2C, B2B. Problem solving, which is breaking down the problem and figuring out what to solve first. Prioritization, that's common. There's a team looking up to you for decision making. So all these are very, very common kind of skill sets. The majority of the difference is in two things, in my opinion. One is means of getting certain information, getting data about product usage and things like that, and how the product is sold. These are the major two differences in any B2B versus B2C. And for a B2B product managers, these are additional things that they need to understand, and probably build the product for instrumentation so that you can collect data right from the beginning, understand the buyer persona. I tell my product managers that it's not always important to build features that are usable, but at times you have to also build smaller features which are sellable. Right, so it's important because it's normal, very normal to have a different buyer persona and a different like actual user persona. So understanding the full journey of the product itself is very important. Selling it yourself in the initial phase of the product launch is also very important, if at all you can. If it's not a SaaS company, an enterprise, large enterprise company, then you should be selling the product yourself, because then you'll understand what are the challenges, what are the questions you're being asked, right? And either you pick those as feature sets, or you have an answer prepared for it, or you have some solutions around it. Customer empathy, because you don't have access to a lot of data, the volumes are lower. Customer empathy and sort of emotional intelligence needs to be higher in B2B sort of space, because then many times you have to be a very good listener, because you're talking to stakeholders, not just external customers, but also internal sales team, account management team, support team, and then the customers and the CXOs. So just understanding, like, one thing is just talking, the other is listening and also synthesizing what that means. It becomes very critical here, because you don't get enough data all the time, right? And of course, communication, because your stakeholders are numerous, then obviously your communication skills need to be much better. Although I've worked for a very short while and in a B2C space, these are primarily differences, and all arising from the two core things, which is how your product is sold and how do you collect more and more usage data, that so that it helps in product decisions. Yeah, when I generally, I've been evaluating companies to invest recently a lot more. See, I look for two things. One is the problem space itself. And when I say problem, we're looking at, how big is the problem? How new is the problem? New in the sense the problem may be old, but if anyone has solved it or not, right? And also look for indication whether ecosystem itself is growing or not. Because obviously when you start with a smaller problem in that ecosystem. And when your ecosystem itself is growing, the chances of success of a company is much larger, because you're currently solving in one product, but you can then expand. So these are the areas. This is what I mean by problem space. Like, for example, investing in EV related startups. I think we all know that EV is going to be the next big thing, in not just in consumer space, but even how logistics is managed in B2B spaces, etc. So figuring that out. So talking about or understanding the problems, obviously not to the depth of how a product manager does, but at a very large level, because from there to actually scaling a large building and scaling the company, it's all about team. So that's the next thing I look at, which is founders, and the team is pretty much the founders in the business. I just look for the team which can sustain a longer, like, instances or examples where they have seen adverse situations and they have survived for a certain period of time. I think that's what it needs, and the sort of zeal and passion, because that will make you sort of sustain in the market. Right. Now, how do I translate that into my day-to-day life? I think number one is, while hiring for product managers, and specifically in B2B space, I look for that quality, which is spending more time in the space, because in B2B space, the amount of time you spend in that domain is very important, as I mentioned earlier as well, because it's not just one problem that you're talking about. They are, like, typically users are busy, they just don't work on your product, right? They have a, like, what is their motivation, what is their sort of, what KPIs actually your users are measured on. That's an important aspect, no matter what your product is, because then you will realize how big the problem that you're trying to solve is for him or her, right? So hiring for people who are a little more patient and have that sort of passion to solve the problem, not passion for product itself. Right. That's what I hire for. And for problem space, frankly, not so much. The reason is, when I'm investing, I look for the over sort of goal. But when I'm working in a space, I know this problem space and I need to like identify and solve for the problem. So there's a slight bit of difference there. But yes, I definitely hire basis that.